Welcome back to the secret underground lair. Today we are working on the sawmill. We're back to this one because I have a lot of lumber that I want to cut up from some cedar and also some oak that needs to be milled. So we're going to do that, but we have a little automation project underway to make that a little bit easier and get more consistent lumber. So I have this little wiper motor, and I put up a little short a little while ago. I'll put a link to that. I guess that'll show up here. A little link to that video just to show you this motor, a power supply, and a speed controller that will give us a little indication of the speed on this little LED display, direction control here, and speed regulated by this. So obviously these things need to be mounted on someplace a little more stable. And our little motor, we made a little adapter here so that this screws onto the shaft coming out of this gear drive on this motor. This is just a little window crank motor. And we've 3D printed some parts to mount that motor in here. And this piece comes off. This piece will go on with the motor attached. Attach that to the threaded rod. And another little part that I've printed up here will sit in here to support the shaft, our threaded rod rather, which is a lead screw, and our sprocket, which is currently sprawled over there. The chain is over there. That'll sit in here right in front of this new bracket that'll sit here. So between the motor and the bracket, we have our chain. Give us some support. That moves the chain up a little bit closer to the saw, or closer to the work table, so less interference there. And motor will give us some nice speed control, consistent speed control. So that is today's adventure. So I'm going to start today's project by getting this new bracket positioned in here. And to do that, I'm going to take off some of the nuts. Well, I'll move this one down. Well, I'll take them both off. We'll need a couple lock nuts on this. On the threaded rod on this side of the bearing block, and a couple threaded rods. Well, and then we'll have the sprocket kind of locking that bearing block in the other side. Of course, the other piece I need to address is the entire lead screw needs to move this way quite a bit. So I'll just be screwing that down a little bit as we, during this process, that's all going to be adjusted. So I have a bearing block that I'm going to be, so this will be attached like this, provide some support up here. Our sprocket will sit right in this space here, and then the motor up here. I have a second bearing block that'll go on the other side, and I have some holes here that I will be drilling out through the bed rail so I can bolt that on and hold that securely. A little bit of adjustment possible with that, so that's all good. I'm happy with that. But I'm going to put the motor on as well, just to get things all in the same plane, lined up the way I want it. On this piece, this bracket has been designed such that the motor can simply slip into this. So just take that, slip it in there. I have place here for a bolt to go through and keep this in place. It's not just going to be a friction fit. So, and I need to move that threaded rod down a fair bit. Let me just slip this on first so I can get a sense of where we want to move that. And these guys are always a little snug on first fits. So I am going to need to move that down a good 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to screw that through. that's kind of how that's going to work. This bearing block will sit in here like this, provide some stability here and keep tension on the chain. So the chain will sit in here. Just wanted to make sure that was going to be a reasonable fit. It looks like it is. So what I'm going to do now is mark those holes and then drill them out so I can bolt this bracket on. That was a little 1/8 pilot hole, so now we'll drill it out to a bigger hole. And clean up some of that metal swarf. That seems to line up with their holes perfectly. So I'm just putting these on kind of temporarily. I have to put on some locking nuts in here, but I just kind of want to make sure I'm getting a good fit here. These guys sit nicely. Pleased with that. Just going to make sure this guy sits in. Yes, that's going to work. So our bearing support here, motor here. So I'll take this apart again, get the chain and sprocket in here, lock nut on this side with a capture nut, or sorry, a nut with a capture nut on there, and a nut here. So 2 nuts here, our sprocket, and 2 nuts here. So I'll come back when that's all in place. Okay, so here's our arrangement all in place now. Our new bearing block. The sprocket is up tight against that bearing block. That moves it in a good 6 inches from where it was sitting way out here before, so that gets us a little closer to the table. Our motor in its bracket mounted here. There is a bolt that needs to be applied, but I'll do that after we've had a test run. The threaded rod, or this lead screw, has been moved that way probably about 6 inches. It used to come out to here, all the way out here. And I was driving it, as you may recall, with my drill last time I was using the sawmill. So I need to put the bearing block, another bearing block on the far side to accommodate the chain, so I'll get that set up now. So I ran into a little bit of an issue, not a big one. Having this bracket mounted in here, and when I mounted the bracket on the other side, of course, what I'm doing is I'm taking away all of the slop that exists in that rail. So there was a little bit of give in his threaded rod. There was a little bit of give to it in the previous configuration, and setting up the threaded rod with this bracket to support the chain, I've taken away all of that give. And that has left this chain just a little short. So I'm going to add another link, maybe a half link, onto that chain, just to kind of give us the space that we need. So, close, but not quite close enough. So I'll adjust that chain, come back when I have that done. So a link has been added to the chain, and we're now ready to give it its first test run. So there's our little speed indicator. Let's see if I can get that set so you can see it. The cable's a little kind of wonkus here. Or maybe you can see that. Okay, so we'll turn it on. going in some direction. I'm not sure which direction, but obviously that nut needs to be tightened. But there we go. We are running at a speed of 74. Whatever 74 is. Of course, I can speed it up. So that's moving the saw very slowly, but it is moving it. And most importantly, it's moving it consistently. So a nice, consistent, smooth run. It's a little slow, but that's okay. I think that will work. That's probably about the speed that I'd want to be cranking it. So our next video, we'll put a log up on the table and we'll start milling with some automation. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. I will see you on the next video.